Welcome to Backstage 421, the musicians only podcast with your host, author, and music lover, Charles Campbell. Charles will have an awesome array of guests from many genres of music, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. By the way, Ray Mattis is the composer of this awesome intro music.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Backstage 421, the Musicians Only podcast. And today I have a very special guest on. He's a friend of mine. I used to work with him in another life. He is an awesome drummer and a supreme guy. Love him to death. His name is Marty Brittain. Welcome to the show, Marty.
Hey, Charles. Good to be here, man. Thanks for inviting me. I'm honored.
Well, I'm honored to have you. And you know, you sent me a little bio of what you've been up to, and boy, you've been up to a lot since the last time I've spoken with you. So Marty, you know, he's kind of been all over the world with his drumming escapades. So if you'll give our listening audience a little bit of your background and what kind of brought you to music. So we'll set it up that way.
Sure. My introduction to music was way back in elementary school through children's choir in church. Like a lot of people, that get started in the music business, it was in the church choir. We did a Down by the Creek Bank program way back, and I kind of fell in love with music. My parents grew up, I grew up with my parents listening to music. My mom was a big country fan. My dad was a big R&B fan, and then I have a uncle. My Uncle Jeff, 8 years older than me, kind of ushered me into the rock and roll, part of it. So I started wanting to be a lead singer. That's, since I sang in the choir, I wanted to sing. And as I got a little older into high school, I wanted to play the guitar. And we were, doing a little jam session at a friend's house, and we took a break. And the drum kit was wide open. And so I asked my friend Red if, can I sit and just play them? And it just came a lot more natural. I couldn't play the drums, but I was, just kind of figuring out the little cheerleading beats, you stomp, stomp, clap, or, We Will Rock You or something. And I thought to myself, I think I can figure this out. The guitar is a little bit more, lessons, and I think I can do this drum thing. So I started playing the drums, and still, was really involved in music as far as my voice was concerned. As a matter of fact, my degree in music is focused on my voice, and through singing, I was able to travel to Czechoslovakia, participated in a New World Music Festival, participated in we were in Charleston for Spoleto. I sang in Westminster Abbey, and then here at home was just playing the drums in several local bands. Was introduced to some tribute bands. We were looking for a singer, and there was a singer looking for other musicians for a tribute band. And I thought, well, I've heard of some other tributes, but I've never considered being in one. But the tribute bands kind of opened up a lot of the traveling farther away, up and down the southeast coast, and then down into Guatemala, Punta Cana, Santo Domingo. A lot of of course, before COVID. Now it's starting to open up a little bit more now, but that really opened up the travel,
right,
as far as playing the drums were concerned. So that was kind of like a bucket list item to have to get on a plane to play the drums somewhere.
That's
cool.
Well, that's amazing, man. And you brought up tribute bands. See, you and I are close to the same in age. I'm 54. I don't know how old you are exactly, but
I will be 54 very soon.
So we're neck and neck in age. So we grew up in the same era. So when I looked at the tribute bands you played in, I don't have as much hair as you have. I told you I was losing it. So, but you're Grace with a full head of hair. I'm not so much. I can grow a beard, but that's about it.
But yeah, I can't do that. This is all I can do. So you got me on that.
I'd switch with you in a heartbeat. But But some of the names that jumped out at me were, I mean, these were bands I listened to as a teenager, like Rat,
Oh yeah,
Slip of the
right,
Lip,
right.
some of their
Oh
other
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
outside of their hit. Um, so that's crazy to me. So you played in the tribute bands portraying Rat, Poison, Guns N' Roses. Those are three humongous hair metal bands from the 80s. Tell me how
Right.
you
Oh yeah.
tell me how you kind of fell into those, or how you earned your way into those groups, and what was the dynamic of playing those shows in that getup? Because I know you had to dress all out for that stuff. So that sounds like fun to me. So tell me
Yeah.
about that a little bit.
Yeah, the tribute band, the very first one was a tribute to Rat, and that was the ad that I was referring to. We had a local band in Augusta that we were looking to replace some members, and I don't remember if it was Craigslist or something. We found this singer looking for, I think, a guitar player at the time or something, and we reached out to him to say, I see you're looking for a guitar player, and would you bring in a drummer, maybe rhythm guitarist, and we'll do our part of the show, and then you'll do your part of the show. And we got together and started rehearsing that, and just went full on with the Rat tribute. And that was my introduction to the tribute world. And as you mentioned, in my opinion, a tribute really does dress the part, act the part, and play the part. It's not just let's get together and learn some songs and play them. You are supposed to try and look as close to them as possible and try and act as close as possible. So we played a few shows with that band. I was introduced to several other tribute bands and some of the festivals that we did, and met several other people, and sometimes you get an opportunity where someone's out of town or can't play this. Could you be ready in 6 weeks to play this show with this different band all together?
Right.
Well, send me a set list. I'll see what I can do. So then a Guns N' Roses opportunity came up. I needed to fill in Rome, Georgia, at one of the I can't remember the team, but they were kind of like a farm for the Braves. It was called something else, but they were,
Right.
it was like an Atlanta Braves team. And
Right.
I filled in for them one week, and that kind of opened the door to a different Guns N' Roses tribute that needed a drummer. And they said, hey, you did well over there. Could you, fill in for us in a few weeks? And did that. And that drummer wasn't able to continue with them. So I became the drummer for that band. And it opens up, even more travel. So I did 2 different Guns N' Roses tributes. And sometimes you book a show and they say, well, hey, we're looking for,
Yeah.
2 or 3 bands on that bill. Do you know any other bands? And sometimes we might know another band, and then sometimes we all put our heads together and say, why don't we buy costumes to be the Poison opening band that we're going to need for that show, and learn, perfect all of those songs we know, and become the Poison opening tribute. And sometimes it's the exact same band, and sometimes it's someone else that steps in here and steps in there. And
No, that's a
they
great way
do
to do it, man. It's plug and play, right?
yeah, they do. They'll play the guitar in this tribute, and they'll be the lead singer in this tribute, or however it works out. So, and then there were times where you would be in one tribute, and filling in for me happened to be how a lot of it happened.
Right.
You get a phone call or someone sends you a message and says, our normal drummer can't do this show. Would you be willing to sit in for a Bee Gees tribute? Well, send me the tracks, or send me the list. And then they say, well, here's the list, but there's also 5 of these songs that have a track behind it, with
Right.
bongos and all kind of, disco sounding
Right.
stuff that's harder to duplicate without a, 10-piece band. So you spend, hours and hours. My little practice kit's literally right here, just going over and over these songs to where you get them. It's like a muscle memory. You don't,
Right.
just memorize it. You can turn around and speak to somebody while your arms and legs are doing what they're supposed to.
Right.
The Bee Gees tribute opened up into playing a Jimmy Buffett tribute. So at one time I had been in a Guns N' Roses Jimmy Buffett and Bee Gees tribute, all at the same time. And depending on what weekend it was, determined which suitcase do you grab to make sure you've got the right outfit when you get there. And
oh crap,
so
that would be a story if you grabbed the wrong one.
yeah, show up in the wrong outfit. But one fill-in led into 3, 4, 5 other fill-ins, and that's how everything has kind of come about for me personally. I kind of think that preparation meets opportunity, and magic happens. So I try to stay prepared even if anything's not on the books. I've got a whole lot on the books right now that I may have overbooked myself, but I just try to stay as prepared as I can.
Well, I tell you, I see your social media posts, and you're all over the place, man. You're over, in this part of the country, you're over here. I'm like, wow, this guy's really traveling around. That's pretty awesome. One thing I do want to ask you, especially from the 80s hair bands, I want to know your favorite song to play. I want to know your favorite Rat song that you play. I want to know your favorite Poison song and your favorite GNR song that you play live. Or do you have a favorite? I'm hoping you do. But
yeah. For Rat, there were 2. Body Talk was my first one to play, just because it was a kind of a little double bass song.
Okay.
And Way Cool Jr. became one of my favorite songs. I did not like Way Cool Jr. There were so many different parts. When I'm learning something, I always look for a pattern. It's like a verse, chorus, solo, verse, chorus, pre-chorus, whatever the pattern is. Once I get that down, it helps. And then you just go back in and plug, this is the beat that he plays in the verse. This is the beat you do in the chorus. And the fills sometimes are very similar. But Way Cool Jr., the format was pretty much the same. Verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus. I don't remember the exact format, but I almost was willing to bet that Bobby just went in and said, I'm going to make every single fill completely different. And it was so difficult to memorize each one of those fills, because I personally like to do everything just like it is, whether we're doing the live version or the studio version. I like to do it as close as possible. If they were standing in the back of the room, I'd want them to go, wow,
yeah,
that's exactly like it. So Way Cool Jr. was one of the hardest songs to learn and get down perfectly, but it became one of my favorites. Now Poison, it's hard to choose that, and I really am not a huge fan of Poison, but they are very popular, especially among some of the a lot of girls like them. A lot of most guys play in a band, but so I may not have been a huge fan of Poison, but anytime you play Talk Dirty to Me or I can't even think of it now.
Their little ballad, every rose has its thorn.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about seeing the people, and Poison. When you play their hits, everybody just lights up. So those are awesome. Guns N' Roses. I really enjoyed the songs that I knew from back in high school off of Appetite for Destruction, but there were some of them that I really come to love as I played it. Like Civil War was not one of my favorite songs until you play it live, and I've noticed that with several songs that I don't really care for them on the radio, but when you sit behind your instrument and play them, it brings out a different feeling. Civil War was like that for me. November Rain was a favorite of mine. One of the reasons because I knew exactly what to play, because our piano player was a track, and the track never messes up. So it was almost one of those comfortable songs. There's a good bit of interaction on stage that people may not notice. Sometimes, we're looking at each other saying, let's do that one more time, or let's that was funny. But I kind of had a comfort in November Rain that, I'm right here, hopefully going to be able to do exactly what I'm supposed to. But picking out one specific song for Guns N' Roses was kind of hard, because I enjoyed playing a lot of those. But I love to play the drums in general. A shocker was the Jimmy Buffett crowd. I don't really do the whole parrot thing, but man, that party or that crowd
is a
would
party.
I've never played in a band where the people were there before you got there to load in.
Wow.
Normally you have to show up at like 4 or 5 o'clock and you load in all the stuff and everybody shows up at 10 and they're like, woohoo,
Right,
like,
right.
well, I've been here 5 hours, I'm tired.
Yeah.
But almost every single show that we would play for the Jimmy Buffett crowd, they were tailgating when we got there. They were already partying when we would get there. And I love the Bee Gees. I had never considered being in a Bee Gees tribute, but that opportunity fell in my lap, and I really enjoyed it. That gave me an even deeper appreciation for the Bee Gees because there were a lot of the 60s songs that I was not familiar with that was just really, really, beautiful music. So I try to have fun, whatever I'm playing. So.
Well, they came, they became on fire, I guess, in the 70s when the disco rage was at the top of its game. So I remember the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. My mom had that. So yeah, the Bee Gees were big, man. But they even had the little parody on Saturday Night Live a few years ago. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do. I saw quite a few of those afterwards, and I was like, now I understand that now because I didn't know the song Max on Broadway until the tribute. And then when I'd see that parody again, I was like, I know exactly. Now it's even funnier because I understand the song.
Oh man! So what have you been doing recently? Where has drumming taken you? Who have you been touring with? Kind of let our listeners in on what's going on with Marty right now.
Recently, I'm putting together, well, not just me, but we are doing a reunion for Wax Bean, which is, it has been 25 years since we put out a few CDs. And it just was a coincidence. We talked about it during COVID. We because everybody had to do something. We were doing closed door sessions. We were doing quarantine karaoke, and my sister and I had conversations. I had conversations with Bill and Kent on separate occasions about, man, wouldn't it be great, if we could do some kind of reunion? And because it's coming up on, it was just 20 years, and we missed that. But then we got to looking at it during COVID and afterwards. And it's like, 2023, which is right around the corner, is going to be a 25-year reunion, or 25 years since we put out a particular album. So everything kind of fell into place to plan a 25-year reunion for Wax Bean, which was we played out of Aiken. So I've been coordinate that, getting all that together, trying to get some old merch, some new merch, a lot of different things for that. And while I'm here doing that, I've got playing with Zombie Salon, playing with Mr. Haney out of both of them out of Augusta, Unchained, filling in for Zombo out of Aiken. There's another opportunity that I'm hoping things go real well. I have 4 different songs I'm working on right now that working and praying about, because it happens to be one of those drummers you're like, oh man, I'll do my best. And it has, nothing has been confirmed, but it's one I'm really actually am hoping and praying will work out. But staying real busy with with those guys and trying to get this reunion going, and it's just going to be a one and done type show, but we're looking forward to getting out and seeing everybody that some people we may not have even seen in 25 years.
Well, when I posted,
heard from a few people.
When I posted it,
we've heard from a few people, that still have their T-shirts. Still have the T-shirts from 25 years ago.
Well, that's the point. When I posted that you were going to be on the podcast, a lot of local folks jumped on, and congratulations. Looking forward to it, and it was a lot of local people. So Wax Bean, for the listeners who aren't local to our area, can you give our listeners a little background on Wax Bean and how that how that group formed, and what
Absolutely.
led up to this
as best
resurgence?
Sure. Wax Bean was actually founded by Bill Bentley and Kent Red when they were in high school. So this is like 1969, 1970s. They have pictures of them performing way back. And I think if I remember correctly, Bill said that my sister and I with Wax Fiend are the ninth version of that. You know, they had different singers come in and out, different drummers coming out, but Bill was guitar and Kent was the bass player. And through those years, they've had different musicians. My sister was singing, I think, karaoke or something in a club, and Bill and Kent were looking for a new singer, and they happened to see her and said, "Wow, I think she would be really great to sing with us." And some disagreements with the band they were in. They said, "Well, if you pick her, you know, I'm not going to play." And they said, "Well, we're going with that." So my sister sang with them for quite a while. And I was in a different band playing like hardcore punk music, more like underground stuff.
Right.
I mean, we used to tour as well, but it was more do-it-yourself type stuff. You know, once you get all your equipment out of the way, that's where you're sleeping.
Right.
You know, so that was pretty hardcore. And so I was involved with a different band, and she was playing, and it was really the first time my sister and I had something in common, and we went from, you know, the sibling rivalry to really being a lot closer. And having something in common. We could talk about music. And it just so happened that about a year or so after playing with other drummers and a drum machine, they said, you know, this drum machine is working out real well and we don't have as many people to pay, but that drum machine never messes up. And if we don't get it right the first time, that drum machine doesn't care. It keeps going.
Right,
so
right.
Would you please, would you be willing to play the drums in our band? And I said, at that time I had grown up and sold my kit, and they said, "We'll buy you a drum kit to play in the band." I said,
okay.
Sure. So I went from the big 80s double bass kit down to just a single bass drum, one mounted and one floor tom, and started playing with them. They had some originals, and just playing some of the current cover songs. And if you remember in the mid to late 90s, Lance Morissette, Jewel,
oh yeah,
Fleetwood Mac, there was a lot of the Lilith Fair. There were a lot of female pop songs that were out at the time, and so she was doing real well with those. And she also does a lot of we covered Led Zeppelin, Red Hot Chili Peppers, so she would do male voices as well. Of course, Kent sang, Bill sings, and I'm not real technical with the guitar equipment stuff, but Bill had this effects pedal that would sound like a keyboard. It would sound like horns when we would do these songs that were just really complicated, and it would never cease to amaze me. You could tell who the guitar players were because they'd come up to the front of the stage and just look down like, what is he doing? And then how's he playing? They're looking for the horn section, and Bill's over here doing it with his feet. And Kent's over there. Kent's got a harmonica strapped to him, and he's playing, his pedals and stuff. So it was really fun to play with some talented musicians, and we played all the way up until I think we released our second CD in 1998, and things happen. Just stuff that people get busy, and somebody's got to go this way, and somebody does this, and it wasn't a plan to release that and then be done, but it just sort of happened. We all continued with music, but Wax Bean, kind of that was the end of that version of Wax Bean. Okay. And 25 years later, who knew that it would have come around, but we mentioned it and posted it, and there was a big response for it. So we're excited to play another show back on that. And we played the Aiken area, Orangeburg, Greenwood, maybe in Williston once or twice. We just kind of played right around here in the local area, and having fun with it, and we're looking for being back on stage. We've been rehearsing a good bit, and things are, I'm sure a lot of musicians can relate to that feeling. I guess like any relationship, when you fall back into it, you're like, oh wow, I remember how cool this was.
It's like a glove, kind of fits like a glove.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't know if you've been down to the record shop downtown at Gransky's Records, but they're starting to do shows now. and they have a lot
Oh,
of,
really?
yeah, they have a lot of bands coming through there. I haven't been to
Okay.
one yet, but I want to go because it's exciting. And I love Evan, and he's got a great store. You know, vinyl's making this big resurgence, or has made
Big
this
coming.
big,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
And he's got a beautiful store, and he's had some pretty, good recognizable bands come through there. So, you may want to hit
I
him
do
up.
know where you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
and that's it's in the old, is it the on Broad Street, the Sky
yeah.
City location? Is that
I
okay?
think,
Because
yeah,
I think that because I have not been to the store, but I have heard that they were doing shows,
yeah.
and if
And
I'm not
there's,
mistaken, it's where my daughter wants to go see this show, and was asking if we could go and all. So it's very likely that I will be there
well, dude,
sometime
that place
soon.
is amazing. It's an amazing record store, and I definitely want to catch a show there. And yeah.
Yeah.
So if you
So
guys
I'll
are
tell them Charles
doing,
sent me.
if you tell him that, if you see Evan, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great place, man. I love to go there when I have time. I just haven't had a lot of time lately. But anyway,
Oh, I understand.
I want to back up on something. We kind of glossed over it at the beginning of the podcast, but it's a pretty big deal, man. You performed at Westminster Abbey in England. Tell me about that experience and
Yes.
what that was about.
That was it was amazing all around. I have pictures that were in the black robes, and we were getting all this direction from our the choir director before we went out. This was an opportunity that came about after singing in Czechoslovakia. I sang in Czechoslovakia with the USC Aiken Choir.
Okay.
We were part of the New World Music Festival. We sang Today in by Dvorak in Czechoslovakia with a Czechoslovakian choir in Latin. So this combined choir is singing in Latin, and you get finished with the song, and you just kind of assume that everybody standing around you speaks English, and they do not. They spoke a totally different language, but we had both been singing in Latin, so it was it was just kind of like hey, we all speak the same language, but we didn't. So anyway, we get back from Czechoslovakia, and we had a great time. And the choir director, or someone that was in the choir, in our choir, was also in a choir in Augusta, Church of the Good Shepherd, and he said, we just happen to need some baritones in our choir, and we are going to be the resident choir of Westminster Abbey
Wow.
in just a few months. So I had to go on this fundraising, there was no GoFundMe. This was,
Right.
calling my parents like, hey, it's going to cost me like $2,000
Yeah.
to go see Westminster Abbey.
I
Can we
got
do that? So,
I got to sell
get some
chocolate
money
bars
together.
and
Exactly. I got to
Yeah.
wash some cars, take out some garbage. But so we were the resident choir for 1 week in Westminster Abbey, and it's something they do on a yearly basis. I'm sure someone will do the same this year. But I mean, there have been a lot of awesome opportunities and a lot of awesome shows, here where you're playing the drums and people walk by and it's like, oh, are you in the band or whatever? And yeah, and some really cool stuff. But to be standing in Westminster Abbey before you go on with the choir, outfit and standing in a line, I mean, people literally split to let you walk by.
Oh wow.
And would take pictures and all, and I was really just like, man, I'm just this guy from New Ellington, that had this amazing opportunity. I'm not really who you might think I am, but hey. So it really was an amazing opportunity that just happened because someone said, we just sang in Czechoslovakia. Could you also come learn what we're learning and sing in Westminster Abbey? So that really was amazing. And just to tour around and I didn't have a camera with me at the time, but I was kind of keeping a journal, and I remember standing, right on top of where Benjamin Brittain, he's buried right here. I'm like writing in my journal. I'm literally standing where Benjamin Brittain is that? There's no relation. It's spelled different, but I just knew the name from doing a ceremony of carols and thought it really was a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I was able to do it because of, a previous experience with a different band, or not band, different chorus and different choir.
Right.
And they just happened to need some baritones, and I was able to go. So I sold enough chocolate bars to go.
Man, that is cool. I didn't want to gloss over that because that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So you've been touring a lot. You got all this stuff going on, and I'm sure you've got a couple of stories maybe on some strange happenings during a tour. Does anything kind of stick out in your brain from maybe an audience or a particular fan, or some funny story you may have from one of your many touring days?
Oh yeah, the first story that came to mind, as you said, funny or weird, it involves a tire. But there are a lot of shows that I've played that I've always kind of mentioned to people that the local shows are awesome because I get there and I set up and I get to hang out with people. I get to meet my friends. We all get to hang out and talk, and you take a break in between songs and you get to hang out and talk. The shows where I'm traveling and touring, they're different because it playing in theaters and you're the main act, and you get a different level of respect.
Right.
That as a musician and as a person in general, you're the feature, and they give you all of these accommodations and stuff. But before the show, the green rooms are awesome, but you're just you're stuck in the green room. You don't really get to talk to anybody. And then during this performance, you're up on stage. But I really have met some awesome friends that I still have not seen in 2 or 3 years, but I still keep in contact with and talk about, hey, we're taking our Harley out for the first ride, and it's been 16 degrees for the past 2 weeks, but today we're out and it's like, well, it's 82 degrees here. So meeting people is really awesome. The one thing that, anytime somebody says story, we were in, not really a tour bus, but we were in our little, tour truck, which was a kind of a U-Haul or whatever, converted into, put a wall in the middle of it, and riding down the road in this thing. There's 2 people up front, 4 in the back, and then after that wall, there's all the equipment. It's got these double tires on the back. We just got on the this side of Chicago, and the whole truck just kind of shifts over it.
Oh my God!
Over 2 different lanes, and we're all like, oh, what what the hell's going on? Because we're just kind of flipping and flopping her all around, and so we, by the guys, incredible driving, we finally get off to the side of the road, and I was thinking to myself, oh, we got a flat tire. It's 3 a.m. This is not what you want to be doing, but okay, let's just let's roll up your sleeves and get ready to change a tire on the side of the interstate. But the entire tire, the rim, everything had just come off of the truck. We don't know where it went. We never found it. It just came off the truck.
Oh my God.
Yes, but two tires were gone. We walked to the back to try and, we're going to fix this flat tire. There were no tires. The entire thing was gone. Now I'll embarrass myself with my mechanical knowledge. The round part that you screw the lug nuts down.
Oh yeah,
that was all that was. It was just hanging there. There was no tire at all. So that was a crazy story that it opened up into another whole crazier story with the Lyft driver that was able to come get us. That the profile picture is like, whoo, oh boy, can't wait for her to get here. And when she shows up, it was like, oh yeah, she is who she says, but she obviously had some kind of whole situation going on where Lyft wasn't the only thing she was running. She was doing some stuff on the side.
She's making some extra cash.
she was hustling for sure. And if it weren't, selling this, she was going to take it from you one way or the other. So that's a story for a different podcast. But it was definitely one of the stories that I have trouble forgetting. Because it was the tire was just crazy that we survived, and how he kept it on the road. It's just a miracle. And they come to look at it the next morning. We at first thought we were going to be able to get it fixed that night, but it just wasn't going to work. And it was one of those geographical oddities. Every time we'd say, well, how soon can we get it fixed? Well, it's going to take 2 weeks for that part. And it kept reminding me of
oh brother, we're out there. Yeah.
Yeah, like we're just in a geographical oddity. It takes 2 weeks for everything. But luckily, our agent was able to get a flight for me to get home. One of our other guys had to hang out, and he was, getting really anxious about being able to get home and continue his business. And but I mean, it's not the the most glamorous story or the most incredible thing or
well,
crazy, but it definitely is one of those stories that anytime somebody says, what's the craziest? I'm like, well, still wondering where those 2 tires went. That's the craziest thing that comes to mind.
And lucky, and you're lucky too, man. That could have ended a lot worse.
Yeah, it really could have been horrible. Thank God for Jeff.
man. So I'm going to go back to the cover bands here just for a minute. We talked about Rat Poison, Guns N' Roses. What we didn't talk about was AC/DC, or we didn't talk about it in depth.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that, and who'd you get for your lead singer for AC/DC? Because that voice has got to be.
Yeah. Well, surprisingly, the AC/DC voice is very similar to the Guns N' Roses voice. And if you'll remember, when Brian Johnson had was it the hearing problem and he couldn't continue the tour, Axl Rose actually ended up singing for them. So as it turns out, one of the final 4 contestants or 4 finalists in filling in for him was a guy that was singing in an AC/DC tribute in North Carolina that also sang in one of the Guns N' Roses tributes that I was in. So he was doing, he was already doing an AC/DC tribute, and it was almost like the movie, like, their lead singer can't sing, so could you fill in? And it gets right up to the the last minute, and it's like, oh, thanks for your participation, but Axl's going to step in and do that. So he was doing an Axl Rose. I mean, he was doing an AC/DC tribute as well as a Guns N' Roses tribute at the same time. So, and that was another one of those, kind of like the Guns N' Roses Poison, different set of guys, but the same. You put on, the Guns N' Roses outfit with the leather and the boots and the, of course, the hat.
Yeah.
And then you go backstage, and then you come out with jeans and the, a t-shirt, and then you're AC/DC. So it was one of those situations where it's the same guys, just different outfits. But yeah, that singer was doing both of them. Incredible voice.
Okay. Well, I'm reviewing my notes again, and I'm going to go back again to the beginning of the podcast, because I don't want to overlook anything, because you've done quite a bit, and you are an accomplished musician, and I'm proud of everything you've done, man. You're really kicking it out there.
Thank you.
But let's go back to the Spoleto Festival. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, tell me about that.
That I'll tell you as much as I remember, honestly.
Okay. Was this when you were a kid?
Yeah. Oh. Well, not really a kid. It was before 1992. So probably 1991.
Okay.
And again, through the USC Aiken Concert Choir, we were invited to, and it may be a standing invitation, I don't know, but we performed at the Spoleto Festival in Charleston, and it was one of the times where my parents were able to come. And almost every time we were performing in Aiken, something comes up. There's their schedule, life happens, and they weren't able to make it. So they did, get to come and spend time in Charleston at the Spoleto Festival. And like I said, what I remember was that we performed there was a church, and we did our selection, whatever it was. I wish I remembered more about what that was, but and saying 91 seems like just a few years ago, but now that's 30 years back.
Yeah, my daughter's
I might have a
my daughter's gonna be 28 this year.
Program somewhere, but whew,
yeah.
I'd have to look it up to see what we did, but it was an opportunity through the concert choir at USC Aiken, and we sang, and I don't remember what it was.
Well, Marty, I know you definitely have a lot of local support. I mean, I see the posts and I see the people and I see you all over the place. So what I want to do is for you to take an opportunity to, and we've kind of gone through this a little bit, but kind of let everyone know where they could find you if they need, if someone's out there and they're a band that's going through the struggles and they need advice, or if someone who's been around a while and is established and needs a drummer or someone to help teach somebody, where can they find you on social media?
My social media everything is my name. I every time I try to think of something creative, it never happens. So Instagram is just Marty Brittain. Facebook is just Marty Brittain.
And you do have Bad Boy Drums.
That's what I was getting to. The Facebook page I have for my drums is Bad Boy Drums, and that I set that page up. That I was just telling my youngest daughter this story about the Bad Boy Drums. We originally the Rat tribute was the first one that we did, and at the time I was like, oh well, we need to set up our own pages, with our identity for the band. So you're nearly Bobby Blotzer, so create a page that's nearly Bobby Blotzer. So I did, and then after the Rat tribute kind of ended, there was another opportunity presenting that was going to be we're going to do a Guns N' Roses, I think it was going to be a Wasp or Rat. We were going to combine these three bands and go out. All 5 of the 6 guys were going to be these 3 bands, and it was going to be the Bad Boys of Hollywood.
Okay.
So the Bad Boys of Hollywood was going to be these 3 bands, and I said, well, then I'll change Nearly Bobby Blotzer to the Bad Boy Drum page, so I could get rid of the Bobby Blotzer image. So it became Bad Boy Drums, and the Bad Boys of Hollywood never, came to fruition. It never happened, but I had gained this following under Bad Boy Drums from the fans that I had from out of the cellar and then at home as well. So I said, well, I guess I'll just keep this Bad Boy Drums page going, and I started posting some clothes that I had personalized, some furniture that I had made out of some drum pages, and then as I would continue playing with different groups, I just kept the Bad Boy Drum page. So you definitely can find me at Bad Boy Drums. That is my music persona, as well as the just Marty Brittain on Instagram, Facebook. And
well, I will tell you, Marty, I clicked on that YouTube video on Bad Boy Drums, and there's a kick-ass drum solo as soon as you click that video. And it was part of your Guns N' Roses tribute band. I don't know which one that was, but it starts off, and Marty's a wild man, so I think he's even known as that on the drums. So you guys go to Bad Boy Drums on Facebook and click that little YouTube link that's right there, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So and what was the name of the song? It was Rocket On. Was that what it was?
That's Rocket Queen. Yeah,
Rocket Queen. Rocket
we would
Queen.
Usually. Since the song starts out with just the drums, we said, you look at the set list, you say, well, we can do a guitar solo here, we can do a little vocal, exercise here, and then before we go into Rocket Queen, we'll put in a drum solo here. So I had really never been a drum solo type guy.
You couldn't convince me from that video.
Sure.
Yeah, it looked.
Yeah, well. Trust me, it took a whole lot. I pulled up different drum solos from Matt Sorum and thought, well, I'll just copy what he does. And 2 minutes into it, I thought, oh boy, this this is going to be a lot more difficult than I thought. I see why he does what he does now. But I kind of pieced together what I could of his solo into what I had done in some other songs in the past, and put together that solo. And I really enjoyed doing that. And someone at that show in I want to say it was Shreveport or somewhere, one of the theaters, happened to, he started recording right as I started the drum solo. And afterwards he comes up and says, hey, my name's John. And I took some videos and I'm just now starting to play the drums. I appreciate it. And but yeah, that link will take you to his video. And I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but I want to say it's John Spinolo. And he's got several videos from that night and other tributes that he's been to see, and some stuff of his own. We talked about cymbals, and I said, yeah, I use Saluda cymbals. You should check them out. And then I start seeing him, he's got his own custom cymbals with his name on them and stuff. I was like,
wow,
I had no idea they would do that. And he's like, yeah, you just tell him, and I was telling him how awesome it was to work with Saluda, that, he'll make it look and sound however you want to, but I had no idea you could get that custom with it. So he's got quite a setup, and he took that video and it was
no, that video was badass, man.
Turned out pretty good.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. And I also want to give a little plug to Marty. He helped me personally on my last book. I wrote a book called Territour, and it followed a regional band starting up in the Southeast. And I want to know how the drum kit was set up and how that was laid out. And Marty sent me a step-by-step instruction on how that was done. So that part of the novel is really Marty's work, but I changed the verbiage a little bit. But thank you for that. I appreciate that.
No problem.
All right, man. Well, it's been fun talking to you for sure. Do you have anything coming up in the super near future that people need to look out for? Any shows you're going to be doing?
Yeah, Mr. Haney's playing this weekend in Jackson, Georgia at Sean O'Brien's, and the next thing on the calendar preparing for is that Wax Bean reunion, which will be May the 12th. I somewhat intentionally kept some of that time open so I could go back and learn songs that I wrote,
right?
Songs that we hadn't played in a long time, and we've been rehearsing, but I really just want to make sure that those are perfect.
Oh, you know what? Before we go ahead, but I just had another thought. Before we end this podcast, I do want to ask you one other thing that may be a little lengthy. Hope you have a little extra time.
Sure.
But go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, I was just going to say that the other project that just recently, came up is another thing that I'm going to try and work on. But Mr. Haney show is coming up. Zombie Salon will be playing, and R&R Grill, actually the 28th. I forgot about that before May the 12th. So I've got Mr. Haney Saturday, Zombie Salon April the 28th, and then May the 12th is going to be the Wax Bean reunion. Plus learning these 4 songs that I really hope and pray will work out. But go ahead.
Oh, no. When you were talking about Wax Bean, it brought another thought to my head that I ask a lot of musicians, especially songwriters. What's your process when you write a song? Because I don't, when I look at you, I think of you as a drummer, and you've let me, through this podcast today, you've actually opened my eyes that you're a songwriter too. So I want to know your process of how you put a song together.
That was the only song I have ever written. A lot of the times, I've always just been covering or tribute, but at that time there was just a particular melody that I would just hum all day long. Uh-huh. So our guitar player Bill was like, "Hey, let's write some songs together." I said, "Sure." And I had a voice and drum background. I wanted to play guitar, but I couldn't communicate to him in chords and keys. So I literally said, well, there's this thing that I hear all the time, like, and I just walk around and in my head, I almost heard it as a spiritual. And I just said, so it goes like, mm, mm, just hum it to him. And so he says, okay, okay. And I said, and then I also hear, this thing going on. So, he picks it up for a little while and he's like, did you ever think about it like on a slide guitar? I'm like, I didn't really think about it on the guitar at all. I just,
Right.
do my little job, whatever it was in college or something, and hum this little song. And so he pulls out a slide, and as soon as he plays what I was humming on the slide guitar, I was like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
And I had no words prepared or anything, but it immediately put me into a mindset of, a blues. I was almost kind of thinking of a church spiritual, or and when he put the slide to it, I was like, okay, yeah, we're working with the blues there.
Right.
And I pulled from a recent experience I had where I'm in love and she's in love, and then all of a sudden she's married, and it's like, oh man, my world is just coming to an end. And and so these words just kind of fell into it, and I borrowed a little bit from Jimi Hendrix over there, and Bill said, well, how about this right here? So from my personal process, that's how it came about for me. I hummed out what I had just been hearing, and he put it together with a slide, and like I said, at that point in my life, what was going on happened to be really blues related, and I heard the blues, and one song I have written is called My World, that I'll be performing May the 12th.
Awesome. Well, I want to check out a Wax Bean show. So May the 12th, I have to see what's going on then.
You'll definitely have to check out May the 12th.
Okay. All right. And my listeners will check it out. You can find me at Charles Campbell Author on Instagram. And I have a Facebook author page, but we also have a Backstage 421, the Musicians Only Podcast Facebook page. Please take a minute and go like that page and subscribe. Listen to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And I really enjoyed my time with Marty today. Thank you so much, Marty. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Charles.
Man, it's good to see you. Good to see you too. And to everyone else out there, hope you have a good rest of your week, your month, whatever you're doing. And we'll catch you next time on Backstage 421, the Musicians Only Podcast. Take care.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Backstage 421, the Musicians Only Podcast. Be sure to tune in for the next episode. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Listener support links can be found below. Thank you for your support.